Hey guys, it's Butcher Trainer and
Kevin PT Sanchez, and today we're going to be talking about the hips. Now, as from our last episode, we covered the core, and now we're actually going to implement that as to how we're actually going to connect that to the way we sit, to the way that we do some kind of, how we pick stuff up from the ground, how we bend our knees, and then we're gonna start to take a deeper look as to how our hips should be extending. We're gonna cover the hip hinge, we're gonna cover the squat, and we're also gonna cover some of the things that might be causing a deficiency and maybe improving your posture as to how you can do a proper squat, and then you can load it in the gym, okay? Now, let's take a look at, a little bit deeper look into the hips, okay? Now, our hips are mobile joints. Okay, they're able to move back and forth, side to side, forward and back. If you do Zumba or if you do any other activity, you know why you use the hips. Hips don't lie. Okay, so now the problem with the hips and the problem with most of our society is that we actually spend a lot of time sitting. So now when we're sitting, we actually cause a lot of posture and this motion, like that. So now we lose a lot of control in our hips, and that's the reason why our hips start to become too stable. And everything else, lumbar spine becomes mobile, shoulders become stable, and that's when we feel pain in our elbows, and that's when we feel pain elsewhere, because our joints are meant for them to be stable, mobile, stable, mobile. Now, if our hips are in line, okay, as we explained to you guys before, rectus spinae should be contracted, the core should be contracted, and our hips and our glutes, okay, our hips and are connected with the glutes, as well as everything else coming upward, okay? Now, if you just turn to the side a little bit, we're gonna be covering a little bit of the hip hinge, okay? What does the hip hinge entail of? It entails of our hips actually going in an angle. So we're gonna look as to different cueing as to how you can look, as you can do. Now, let me use an example. So look at me, you're gonna stand right there, and you're gonna face me, okay? How do you learn the hip hinge, okay? Find yourself a space where you have a wall, right? Now, all you're gonna do is have your butt touch the wall, okay? Have your butt touch the wall. See? If you can do that without bending your knees, that's a good sign. So now the next thing you want to do, step a little bit forward and then do it again. See? So your hips are going back. Now, just stay there for 1 second. Now, your hips, think about 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it doesn't matter, okay? Your hips should be going straight line. Now, your chin should be tucked in. You don't want to look up. If you look up, and if you see this guy doing a deadlift, stop him, okay? He's actually causing a lot of impingement on the traps. And it actually is not necessary because our back actually starts from here, our fascial system, and it works itself down to the ankles, okay? So hip hinging back is allowing your hips to become mobile, and you're causing a hip dominant movement. Now our knees should not be locked, see, so don't straighten your knees here, lock the knees, okay? This is not what you should do, okay? If your knees are too locked, that means you're actually causing too much tension on the hamstring, and you're not gonna be able to come up. And if you are coming up, that's all over back here, okay? You're not using a lot of the hips. You're not using the muscles in the front. So now, hip hinging back, one more time. Hips go back 9 o'clock. Your spine stays neutral. You're gonna see one line from here, straight down. See? So that should be a good 90 degree almost. And from here, same way, that's another angle. Now, the angle from the knee and the ankle is a vertical line, straight down, okay? Not forward, okay? We're gonna explain to you guys the difference between a hip hinge and a squat, a knee dominant. A deadlift is a hip dominant, okay? So now we're actually gonna take a difference from the squat, okay? Now, face this way a little bit. The squat is a little bit different. On the deadlift, our hips went back. On a squat, our hips go down, okay? So, one more time, you're gonna take a look at his hips. He's going backwards, see? So he's floating back and his hips are going straight down, okay? Now let's go down a little bit more. Let's look at the angles. His spine from the neck straight down to his lower back is actually a straight line, almost, okay? Slightly diagonal, okay? If I'm able to put my hand here and I'm touching all points of contact, lower back, upper back, and your neck, that's a good sign, you're good to go. Now, if my back starts to lean a little bit forward, your arms are falling forward, that means the muscles in the front are too tight, okay? So that means you need to start doing a lot of pulling, okay? Check out our horizontal video push, okay? Now, the angle of the knee, okay? If you take a look from the ankles all the way up to the knee, that's a diagonal line, okay? When we looked at the deadlift, so bring your hips up a little bit more. The deadlift, the hip hinge, see the position of the deadlift? Straight line, okay? Now when you do a squat and your hips are going straight down, it's a diagonal line, okay? So you got one line from here, one straight line to the side, and one vertical line, okay? So when you're working out at the gym and you want to do different kinds of things, take a look at the posture as so you can take a look at the difference, okay? Hip dominant, think about a deadlift. Think about some kind of posterior chain exercise. You got a barbell row, something that doesn't impinge on the knees. If you have a lot of knee pain, maybe you should start looking at some of the movements that you can do without bending the knee so much, okay? If you're picking something up, look, for example, here, pick something up, okay? So you can, yeah, pick it up, man. Not like that. Just pick it up. See how his hips are looking? One more time, ready? Train your body to move into a deadlift portion. See his hips are going back. He's creating a direct angle from the knee straight down to the ear. If you're leaning too much forward, say, and you're impinging it, then that's not a good sign, okay? Train your body to be able to pick stuff up in a functional pattern. Bending through the hips, bending through the knees is actually gonna start giving you a better understanding as to how you should pick stuff up. If you're sitting too much, then you're actually gonna start to realize that your hips are very, very tight. So something that you can do is either foam roll or either do some kind of mobility exercises, which you're gonna cover in the next video. But these are the fundamentals of the hip dominant as well as the knee dominant, okay?